After getting pregnant, my husband became infatuated with the young nurse who saved his life. To help her gain experience, he secretly arranged for her to perform my C-section without my knowledge. Halfway through the surgery, the young nurse got scared and disappeared. I suffered severe blood loss and was barely saved from death's door by the doctor. The young nurse then claimed I had lost control during the surgery, interfering with her medical procedure and even injuring her. To appease her, my husband canceled my private room and locked me in an abandoned warehouse to reflect on my actions. After 3 days of having the entire hospital staff examine the young nurse, he finally decided to give me a chance to apologize. But when he saw me lying there lifeless, he went insane. Part 1. On Valentine's Day, my due date, Jack Sullivan left me alone at home because I refused to let Emily Parker, the woman who saved his life, participate in my delivery. He went to accompany Emily instead. At midnight, Emily added me on Snapchat. Hey Jack's wife, Jack's cooking skills are amazing. I wish I could cook with him every day. My heart suddenly tightened, unsure if she meant cooking or something else. But then she posted on social media, with a picture of her and Jack cooking together in the kitchen. Jack had his arms wrapped tightly around her. I got to eat a meal cooked by my crush. This is the most romantic Valentine's Day ever. The phone slipped from my hand as I lost my grip. My whole body felt cold, and my stomach started to hurt. Oh no, I was going into labor. I shakily picked up the phone and quickly called Jack. After the third attempt with no answer, I realized I needed to call an ambulance. The pain made me curl up involuntarily. Suddenly, my phone pinged. I forced myself to check it through the pain. Jack had finally replied. I've tolerated your jealousy before, but Emily saved my life. I trust her to deliver my child, and you don't get a say in this. The smile that had started to form on my face froze completely. My whole body felt cold as I used my last bit of strength to like Emily's recent social media post. The ambulance arrived, and I was rushed to the hospital. As I was about to enter the operating room, I saw Jack rushing over. I thought he had come to be with me after hearing I was in labor, but I heard him tell the doctor, "This is Emily's first time assisting in surgery. You must guide her step by step. If anything goes wrong, I'll hold you responsible." At that moment, my body, which I had painfully tried to keep upright, collapsed onto the bed. Jack heard the noise and finally noticed me. He looked startled for a moment, then acted as if nothing had happened and gently held my hand. "Lily, don't be afraid. I found the best doctor in the city. You and our baby will be safe and sound." For a moment, I had the urge to ask him if the best doctor was prepared for me or for Emily. In the end, I decided against it and just told him one last time, I don't want Emily to perform my surgery. Jack's previously gentle face instantly darkened. He coldly refused. "Now is not the time for you to be unreasonable. Get into the operating room." I lay on the operating table as the anesthesia entered my body. Even before the incision was made, I felt like I was about to pass out from pain. In my hazy state, I noticed the hickeys on Emily's neck, dense and disappearing into her collar. So, last night, besides having dinner with her, did he also sleep with her? My mind went blank as the cold surgical knife cut through my skin. Emily, who was handing the scalpel to the lead surgeon, seemed to notice my gaze. Her eyes above the mask raised an eyebrow at me, not hiding her smug expression. I suddenly felt incredibly bitter. The tugging sensation on my belly continued, but instead of anticipating my child's birth, I felt hopeless about life. I closed my eyes, trying to numb myself. After a while, I heard Emily and the lead surgeon talking. She went to get some tools. I didn't react until I heard the lead surgeon's anxious voice. "Why hasn't Nurse Parker returned? The patient's condition is critical. If we don't complete the surgery soon, she could suffer severe blood loss." The thread holding me together in my mind snapped. If Emily had been just an ordinary nurse, I wouldn't have objected to her participating in my C-section. But 6 months ago, Jack had brought Emily home, saying she was his lifesaver. He never explained exactly what the favor was. When I discovered Jack had secretly bought Emily an apartment, I was already 5 months pregnant. Heaven hadn't even left me an escape route. I could only choose to have the baby, but I had made a divorce plan. There were 5 months left until the baby was born. This was the deadline I gave Jack to come to his senses. But he only got worse, going on more and more business trips. Emily sent me increasingly provocative messages from her burner account, with escalating content. From gifts Jack had given her, to the battle outfit she wore for Jack, to photos of their entangled bodies in bed. Every time I thought about it, my morning sickness got worse. Until Jack accompanied Emily on a world tour, leaving me alone at home where I fell and almost miscarried. Jack took 3 connecting flights to rush back to the hospital. He held me tightly in his arms, shaking uncontrollably. I'm sorry, Lily. I'll never leave you again." He apologized over and over, even hanging up all of Emily's calls and deleting all her contact information. Emily hysterically messaged me from her burner account every day, while I looked at Jack's haggard appearance and ultimately softened my heart. I thought he had finally remembered me and our daughter, and wanted to live a good life with us. I didn't expect that he had just hidden his betrayal more covertly, letting me discover it only when I was about to give birth. "Not good. The patient is losing too much blood and about to go into shock. Quick, stop the bleeding." The doctor's urgent shout pulled me back from my memories. I realized that I really was losing consciousness. I don't know if it was an auditory hallucination, but I thought I heard Jack's voice. I forced my eyelids open and realized it really was Jack calling. His angry voice came through. "After the surgery, don't send her to the private room. Send her to the worst ward." My heart sank. I didn't understand why he had suddenly gone mad. The lead surgeon looked at me worriedly and couldn't help but tell Jack, "Nurse Parker left midway through the surgery, forcing us to stop. Your wife's condition is very bad. She could suffer severe blood loss." There was silence on the other end. Just when I thought the call had been disconnected, Jack's indifferent voice came through. "Severe blood loss? She has the nerve to have severe blood loss? Emily told me everything. You'd better finish this C-section quickly. This has nothing to do with Emily." The call ended. I didn't know what Emily had told him, but but now I just wanted to know if the baby and I could safely get off the operating table. But my body was exhausted, and I eventually passed out. When I woke up, the bed creaked loudly at my slightest movement. The sticky smell of sweat mixed with the scent of disinfectant. The small room was filled with several beds, with barely any space between them. The smell from the nearby bathroom also reached my nose. My stomach churned, and I felt like throwing up. Then I heard a familiar surprised voice, Jack's wife. You're not feeling sick because of this room, are you? So many people can live here. You really were raised in luxury, unlike me. If I ever have a baby, I'd be content if someone just took me to the hospital. My mom gave birth at home back then. Emily's fair face was full of surprise. When she mentioned childbirth, her shy gaze fell on Jack. I was about to say that nowadays everyone gives birth in hospitals, but I heard Jack snort in disdain. Not everyone is like you. She's always been dramatic. It's time she tasted some hardship. Hardship? I looked at his contemptuous eyes and suddenly felt bitter. I indeed hadn't suffered much hardship, but I was the daughter of a prominent local businessman. Even though my parents had passed away, the inheritance they left me was enough to ensure I wouldn't suffer any grievances. If I didn't need to suffer, why should I seek it out? Nurse, I want to change rooms. I tried to raise my voice to call out to the hallway, but I had overestimated my physical condition. My weak voice didn't summon a nurse, but it made Jack's face turn cold. Don't think that just because you gave birth to my child, I'll indulge you. Lily Johnson, you don't deserve a good room. This was the first time in our 5 years of marriage that he had called me by my full name. I heard him continue with a ridiculous reason. You interfered with Emily's medical procedure during the surgery, and you even dared to hit Emily. She was kind enough to perform your surgery, and this is how you repay her kindness. His cold eyes looked at me as if I was some unforgivable criminal. I was stunned for a moment before noticing the handprint on Emily's face. Emily quickly covered her face helplessly, her eyes welling up with tears, but she said, "Don't blame Jack's wife. It's my fault for being too clumsy and not dodging in time." By this point, she was already sobbing pitifully, looking at Jack with a piteous gaze. "Jack, it's my fault. I'm just a junior nurse. I really wasn't qualified to perform Jack's wife's surgery. I won't make her angry again in the future." Tears glistened on her small face, and Jack immediately raised his hand to wipe her tears, feeling heartbroken. He then turned to warn me, "Whether it was intentional or not, you hurt Emily. Apologize to her right now." I thought that at least for the sake of our past relationship, Jack wouldn't humiliate me too much. But I didn't expect that right after I had given birth, when I was at my weakest, all he cared about was getting revenge for Emily. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. In that case, I didn't need to keep any face either.